Welcome back. The new Mission Impossible movie set to debut this weekend has a pretty rad Minnesota connection. No, we're not trying to claim Tom Cruise, but if you go back to the beginning of this trailer for his new blockbuster, the red airplane that he's hanging from, yep, it once lived here. In fact, if you're a longtime KARE 11 viewer, you might even recognize it. Here's Kent Erdahl.
For 40 years, this red Stearman biplane was the pride and joy of one Minnesota aviator.
It was just really fun to fly.
Ray Johnson still has the logbook to prove it.
I probably gave somewhere close to 1,000 rides in it.
This is, World War II stuff.
He gave KARE 11 a spin around his beloved plane in 2016.
Okay, this feels like home now.
But he made the difficult decision to sell the plane in 2020 when it became too difficult to get in and out of it.
Because I had both my knees replaced. It was time, put it that way.
And it turned out to be the perfect time for its next mission.
I didn't know it was going to Paramount Pictures until they actually did the paperwork on it.
4 years after learning his plane would be featured in Mission Impossible Final Reckoning,
do we want to hang one right here? We decided we need to have a party.
His family can finally share the secret.
We can put those anywhere in the ceiling.
Sherry Christensen spent the day decorating for a special advanced screening tonight at St. Michael's Cinema.
Do you know how long we should make this strings? It was literally in our house growing up. Your friends would be like, what the heck is that? And I'd be like, oh, that's my dad's airplane. And they'd be like, what? You've got an airplane in your basement garage?
And 25 years after that work was finished,
oh, I love it.
She's excited
It's coming together
to see the plane pushed to a new extreme.
We've done stunts with my dad, we've done the loops, but we've never been outside the aircraft, hanging from the wing, going through cliffs.
And if this footage shared on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon is any indication, there's much more fun in store.
Yeah. That's the test?
I can't even imagine what that would be like.
What he does, in the movies is kind of one of a kind. I kiddingly tell people, they asked me to do the flying, but I said they didn't want to pay me enough, so I don't do it then, so yeah.
Maybe not.
It's a Cessna Cardinal.
But at 92 years old, Ray is still flying. And with yearly approval from doctors, he'll keep flying for as long as he can.
In my case, a medical every 2 years. Every time you go flying, you kind of give yourself a medical, if you know what I mean. You got to decide whether you're capable of flying or not.
But so far, so good.
So far, so good, right. Yep. Come out here someday next week and I'll give you a ride.
The same offer has already been extended
I love your vision.
to a certain movie star.
Thinking maybe he'll show up yet tonight, who knows?
If he doesn't show up, his stand-in is here. Get a photo taken with Tom and, of course, my dad.
You gonna fly this to the premiere tonight?
Well, if they had an airport down there, I probably would, so yeah.
This Sunday will mark 5 years since the murder of George Floyd by former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. KARE 11's Chris Harapsky recently spoke with Floyd's uncle, Selwyn Jones. Here's part of that conversation that is now streaming on KARE 11 Plus.
I want to start just asking you what your relationship was like with George. How do you remember him?
He was crazy, man. He was my nephew. I remember changing his diaper as a kid, and I watched him mature. I watched him grow, and unfortunately, I had to watch him die. That's the travesty of this.
How do you look back 5 years ago at what happened? What feelings do you face when you do look back?
I feel sadness. I obviously feel pain. I feel pain as an uncle. I feel pain as a father. I feel pain as a Black man. And I feel pain as a human being in many different aspects, because what you saw on May the 25th was a combination of what we have lived our whole life. Growing up in poverty, growing up on the tobacco farm in North Carolina, where you got called the N-word instead of your name. Where people worked with you in the summer in the fields, but when you went to school, they didn't know you because you were one of them. You'd hired help.
There is another narrative that's spreading online right now that sort of goes through the evidence in a different way and shows that George may have eaten drugs in the car and that he died from hypertension and a drug overdose, and that the officers were wrongly accused and wrongly convicted. What's your response to that narrative?
Come on. Everybody has to have their own, create their own narrative. Reality is this. Let me put my knee on your carotid artery for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, and let me see where you're going to be. So anything that people say, well, he was high or any of this, don't matter to me to a certain degree, because he was having a mental health crisis. And drug addiction is a mental health crisis. But do you think that situation could have been handled differently? Wholeheartedly. If Derek Chauvin would have thought that he would have had to have paid for what he did to my nephew in front of the world and everybody, do you think he would have did it? No. So it's the system that we have been putting in place that gives people acknowledgement that they can do those things. I can make it as simple as I can make, my man. It's as simple as it comes. Treat people the way that you want to be treated. It really don't get any simpler than that.
Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.